Have you ever been hyped for a new game only to see the conversation get hijacked by politics before you even really boot it up? Instead of talking about gameplay, story, or art direction, everyone's arguing about ideology, representation, or some statement that the studio made. It's exhausting. And worse, it's killing good games. Today, we're talking about why politics and gaming don't mix and how we got here, and why forcing ideology into our games doesn't make them better, it makes them worse. Let's start with how this all started. Over the last decade, politics has seeped into every part of entertainment. Movies, TV, sports, you name it, and gaming, being one of the biggest entertainment industries on earth, couldn't escape it. At first, it was subtle. Small narrative choices, background details, character design, lots of those kinds of decisions. Then it got louder. Public statements, political messaging, social causes attached to releases. Developers started feeling pressure to make games that say something, even when those messages had nothing to do with the story or even the gameplay. And when that happens, creativity takes a backseat to ideology. Part of this comes from the cultural climate we live in. Everything is political now. Every decision, every design, every choice, every marketing move, something I'm very familiar with, someone somewhere will interpret it as taking a side. But game studios are also businesses. They see controversy as free marketing. The more people argue online, the more attention the game gets. So sometimes politics isn't just inserted by accident. It's a deliberate strategy. Controversy drives clicks, headlines, and engagement. Even if it divides your audience, at least people are talking about you, right? Well, that short-term visibility usually comes at the cost of long-term trust. But let's talk about what politics in games actually means. Not every game that touches on social issues is political in a bad way. Not trying to blanket statement this. Sometimes themes like power, freedom, or morality can make a story deeper and more engaging. But when politics become the point of the game, it starts feeling more like propaganda than art. It's one thing for a story to explore a theme naturally, like a character dealing with war or injustice. It's another when the game feels like it's trying to lecture you or push a real world agenda. That's when it breaks immersion. Games should make you feel something, not guilt trip you or tell you what to think. Let's look at some examples. When The Last of Us Part 2 launched, the entire internet split in half. Some people loved it, others absolutely hated it. But the argument wasn't really about the gameplay. It was about the political and social themes in the story. Review bombing, online harassment, outrage, all of it overshadowed the work the developers actually put into the game itself. And that's what happens when politics takes center stage. It divides players who would have otherwise enjoyed the same game together. Another issue is when developers prioritize messaging over mechanics. We've all seen games where characters stop mid-story to deliver a speech that sounds straight out of a modern day debate. It kills immersion. It feels unnatural. And it reminds you that you're not in a world, you're being preached to. That's really not storytelling. That's marketing dressed up as morality. When politics drives the narrative instead of supporting it, the result is usually the same: shallow storytelling and alienated players. Games used to be one of the few places where you could escape real world nonsense. You could be whoever you wanted, explore worlds beyond our own, and forget about the noise outside for a while. Now, too often, that noise follows you right into the game. And it doesn't just hurt the player experience, it also hurts creativity. Developers start second guessing themselves. Studios censor or rewrite content out of fear of backlash. Writers water down stories to avoid offending anyone. And in the end, we all get the same safe, politically sanitized games that feel more like focus group projects than passion projects. Now, don't get me wrong, there are games that handle political ideas very well. For example, Spec Ops: The Line used moral choices and consequences to make players reflect on the horrors of war without ever preaching. Suzerain is literally a political simulator, and that's fine because it's designed around that concept. When politics is part of the design from the start, it can work. But when politics get tacked on at the end or injected to score social points, it usually fails miserably. Here's why that happens. First, resources. Every hour spent rewriting a game to fit a certain message is an hour not spent improving gameplay, fixing bugs, or building better worlds. Second, forced messaging kills player agency. Gamers don't want to be told what to think. They want to choose what to believe inside the world of the game. When a narrative strips that freedom away, players stop caring about the story. Third, it creates what's called ludonarrative dissonance. That's when the gameplay contradicts the story's message. Like when a game preaches peace and compassion, but forces you to mow down hundreds of enemies to progress. That disconnect breaks immersion and makes any political point feel very hollow. And finally, it divides communities. Instead of talking about graphics, combat systems, or world building, fans start arguing about ideology. You end up with two groups that hate each other more than they love the game. And developers are left wondering why their inclusive message led to so much hostility. Now let's address the biggest counter argument. People say everything is political, you can't avoid it. Sure, to some extent, that's true. Every story reflects the time it's made in. But there's a difference between natural reflection and forced ideology. When a game shows struggle, sacrifice, freedom, that's storytelling. When it starts lecturing about modern day politics, that's agenda. Games should be art that invites interpretation, not a sermon that demands agreement. Another argument is we need more representation in games. Absolutely. I'm all for more diverse characters and creators, but inclusion doesn't have to come with ideological baggage. You can make strong, diverse characters without turning the game into a political statement. When representation feels natural, players connect. When it feels forced, players disengage. And let's not forget the creative cost. When studios make every decision through a political filter, innovation dies. Developers stop taking risks because they're afraid of offending someone. Writers hold back ideas that might get misinterpreted, and we end up with bland, predictable games that all sound the same, look the same, and say the same things. That's not progress, that's paralysis. Here's the bottom line. Games are meant to bring people together, to challenge, inspire, and entertain, not to divide, preach, or push agendas. The best games, the ones that stay with us for years, focus on great storytelling, deep mechanics, and true player freedom. They let us think for ourselves. They don't tell us what's right or wrong. They let us experience it. So, to game developers, build worlds, not soapboxes. To players, judge games by their craft, not their politics. And to the industry as a whole, remember why people fell in love with gaming in the first place. Because it was a break from the noise. We don't need more lectures. We need more fun. Thanks for watching. If you agree that politics is hurting gaming, drop a comment with your own examples of when a great game got ruined by forced messaging. And if you disagree, that's fine. Let's talk about it respectfully. At the end of the day, we all love gaming. Let's fight to keep it about passion, creativity, and play, not politics.